Hey there, Alex Baker of Reverie Astrology here, bringing you my first ever video that I've published. And wanted to talk a bit about Cancer season and elaborate on one of the concepts that Carl Jung put forth, and that is the constellative quality of the archetype. It's something, sounds like a mouthful, it might be a bit confusing, but when he uses that phrase, he's talking about the ways in which different instincts or qualities sort of make up the picture or image of like what an active role is. So here's one that's apt for a Cancer season. That would be the Greek goddess Artemis, goddess of the hunt. Both warrior and protectress. Cared much about animals and all the creatures, and there's an association with the moon. The sort of preeminent, mirror to the sun, but also dispenser of planetary aspects, throughout the solar system, as it's known. It's something that occurs to us like naturally, like when you witness, say, like on the silver screen in a movie, like the performance of a role that you yourself might not necessarily have embodied in this life, you still understand it on some level. And that's not just because of observed things through the course of your life. It's because like we all have in our genetic memory this sort of like continuum, this like flowing stream of like recognition for all of the roles and qualities that like make us up. The sort of the endless cast within us that can like bubble up or froth up from between the cracks of like everyday motions. So it's like when we hear about the warrior within the mother, or like the protectress within the mother, or like both existing at once as if they're paradoxical in any way, or like amazing feats of strength from mothers, mother lifts up, a card, like, free a pinned child that like isn't even, necessarily her own child, it's like stuff like that is like, oh, right. It's like, it sometimes lacks, material explanation, but it's like things like that speak to us on a deeper level than just like hard materiality might tend to dismiss or like reduce. Cancer season has a similar dynamic. You hear a lot of the same kinds of like words used to describe water signs, except perhaps for Scorpio. Well, really all of them kind of get intuition as their kind of blanket quality, perhaps first mentioned. And it's curious because in the quaternity, the fourness of the human psyche, fire is intuition, and it begs the question of, do we think of intuition as having more to do with picking up on feelings, or intuition as having more to do with like being in touch with one's inner vision? Calling one of them one and one the other, it's not the purpose of bringing this up. And people with charts weighted in all elemental directions, any given one, can be highly intuitive. It's simply helpful in like unraveling not on like a word-based or language-based level, but on a visceral level. Unraveling these different parts of the psyche. Like, what does it mean to be intuitive in like a feeling-based way? Like to like kind of walk into a room and just sort of pick up on like tension or like how another person is doing, versus somebody who has a dream that's more or less like indicative of something that's going to happen later that day or in the near future. So that that would be more, that latter example would be more of like a fiery kind of thing, that way in which you just know, or you see it, or you like, it seems like almost like a spark or like precognitive. Water feeling type intuition is sometimes associated more with like that kind of instinctual like absorption of like the feeling state of another. Are all people capable of doing all of these things in some amount, regardless of their astrology? Yeah, but we're learning about different shades of human psyche as we unpack these things. So Cancer gets this like kind of, as a tropical sign, when we say tropical signs, we mean like 30-degree divisions of the ecliptic. But Cancer is a sign, you hear nurturing, likes to, make other people comfortable, it's like maternal, this and that. It's like those things can all be true, but it's also a cardinal sign. It's traditionally they're more undifferentiated, like even unpredictable in a way. They're instigating energies, you know. That's the cardinal signs instigate the seasons. The fixed signs are like sort of the focused centrality of the seasons, and the mutable signs are adaptive. It's said. I'm fond of saying that cardinal signs are ones that represent generation on the left and preparation on the right, and that fixed signs represent transformation on the left and concentration on the right, and that mutable signs represent reintegration on the left and dissemination on the right. The left and right there across those three quadruplicities representing a more yin or internal process on the left and a more externalizing or yang process on the right. Cancer energy is, you know, instigating in the realm of feeling, and that doesn't always mean taking care of people. You know, it doesn't always mean like being sweet or cuddly. It can mean bearing down. You know, that's where we get a bit of this, like, you know, perhaps even Artemis vibe, like someone who is both hunter and protectress. And when Jung talked about the constellative quality of the archetype, he's speaking of the way in which different stars making up a constellation are each a part of this image that kind of that comes about, and over time we associate the constellation from which the sign takes its name with the qualities of, say, people born under that sign or people who have planets in that sign. You know, so another example of this Cancerian expression of the constellative quality of the archetype would be the symbol of the crab. And one might say, like, what does the crab have to do with, you know, the sign of Cancer? You know, not all cancers are crabby, or that's not what it's about. But one of the participatory ways in which, you know, human psyche has evolved with the symbol, regardless of whether or not people are consciously participating in it, is that, you know, you have not just this thing that can like withdraw into its shell. It's like almost like the Cancer association with like domicile or home, but you have the idea of like ocean waves like lapping at the shore, and over the course of millennia helping sea creatures once legless to evolve like the capacity to walk on land. The way in which the rhythmic motion of the waters just like stirs that into their DNA, and that continuous motion is not so different from the reliable waxing and waning of the moon. It's a type of psyche wherein we see these layers emerge over millennia. You know, it's like, it's even like how I named my practice, you know, reverie astrology. It's like the word reverie, you know, like a daydream, transmits both, you know, a yearning joy and even like melancholia. And such daydreams nightside evokes the core participatory magic of astrology, and that's that the images, you know, drawn in the sky millennia ago bear meaningful connection to movements of psyche, you know, earthly patterns that are, you know, mirrored by planetary alignments with the signs and the lights within their namesake constellations. You know, it's like we are stardust, you know, living meanings drawn in sky. It's like the oceanic Nonan part. And those ways that bind together, you know, the warrior, you know, the protector, you know, all of these different, you know, interwoven instincts that can make up the same image, not just image in the external sense. We're saying that image like in the fire, like archetypal sense, like an active role that's dancing on stage, you know, in the theater of your soul, you know. It's all quite beautiful, really. But that's what I have for you for now. It's just off the cuff. And after quite a day. But I'm just gonna go get some dinner with my friend Jason, who tattooed the moon on me some time ago. I almost said some moons ago, but I'm not gonna lay it on you, like, that thick. All right, ciao.